Well, I heard that he is reinstating the midterm review, and I think that is so important that we look at all the progress that's been made in the last 5 years in technology, how consumer trends have changed, and really look at the whole environment, because we can do things that are going to improve the environment, are going to not threaten jobs. In fact, I think we can do things that are going to create jobs, strengthen the economy, but do the right thing for the environment. And that's the key thing, that this is not at odds. This is something that we can do to be more effective, more efficient, and in the end, I believe it's going to have a greater impact on the environment.
Now, this is something you and your colleagues asked for. That is to say, let's go back and take another look at this now. The regulations go out to 2025, which is a long way. At what point, if they had not changed the path, would GM have had to change the way it's doing business?
Well, I think what it really would happen is we'd be not able to give customers the choice that we give them today. I mean, they choose if they're going to buy an SUV or a small car or an electric vehicle. And we're full range, and we are continuing to invest in the Chevrolet Bolt EV, 238 miles. We've talked about that vehicle in the past. We're very proud of it, and it's doing well. The Chevrolet Volt in its second generation is doing well. So we're making the investments to have the right products, but at the end, it's consumer choice. And that's why I think it's so important. You and I have talked about it in the past, that there's more change happening right now in the industry than's happened in the last 50 years. When you look at this, legislation was done 5 years ago, before there was sharing, before we even were talking about autonomous the way we talk about it now. So to take a pause, be data-driven, and look at what are the right standards, how can we improve the environment, do it in the most effective way, I think makes all the sense. And it's what we all agreed to back in 2012.
You mentioned the Bolt. We just happen to have one
Yes.
right over your right shoulder there.
Yes.
The Bolt, which is now out, it's in production,
Right.
it's being bought.
Right.
But at the same time, isn't the Bolt really being driven to a large degree by what California is requiring?
Well, definitely it's very important to meet our zero emission, or what we call ZEV credits. But, what we did is we worked on putting a great vehicle that happens to be electric. It's a technology platform. I've talked to her and had emails from a couple of our customers. They absolutely love it. It's won all kinds of awards, including Car of the Year. So, we've worked hard to have an all-electric vehicle that's affordable. After government incentives, it's only $30,000, and really try to make an impact on providing that kind of choice for our customers.
Now, coming out of the meeting with the President Trump came out and addressed the audience, largely of auto workers, some of your workers actually, some of your colleagues. One of the things he said is he wanted to stop all, I think he called it job-crushing regulation. As a practical matter, is the California state having different restrictions really job crushing? Should we have a uniform standard across the country?
Well, we very much support having a uniform standard, but we really think the three parties, the EPA, NHTSA, and CARB, can work together, and we can find solutions where we're going to do the right thing for the environment, do the right thing to project jobs, do the right thing to grow the economy. Because the fact is here, if we don't do this in a way that protects jobs and the vehicles can be affordable, we're actually going to be in a situation where people are going to be driving older cars. The car park right now, on average, is 11 years old. If you just look at the technology improvements that have been made from 11 years ago to today, I mean, just in the last 3 years, we have doubled the amount of products we sell that have more than 40 miles per gallon. Over 30% of our portfolio, 32 models in our portfolio have over 30 miles per gallon. That wasn't available then. So we need to make sure vehicles are affordable and people are able to get into these vehicles, because that's going to have the maximum impact on the environment. So I really think that we can come together and do things in a more efficient fashion that are going to be better for the environment, for the consumer, for jobs, and for the economy.
The president also talked a fair amount about trade and what he saw as unfair trade that has really taken away from American jobs in the American auto industry. One of the issues that's really been raised, and you've talked about it some, is the border adjustment tax, which is something that's being proposed in Congress right now. Is there a version of the border adjustment tax that General Motors could live with?
Well, I think your point is it all depends on what exactly is it, and we don't know. What we are, though, is a long lead, high capital investment business, and so we need to understand what the requirements and the rules are going to be, so we can make smart investments. That sometimes the investments we put in place are in, 10, 15, 20 years in position. So we need to make sure that we understand that. We've voiced what our concerns are to make sure we can support the environment, but or support our company and in this new tax environment. But I think there's a lot to be learned yet, and we're waiting to understand it.
The president was pretty outspoken about the fact that a lot of other countries are not terribly fair in importing our vehicles, our cars. Do you agree with him on that? Is that something that you're pressing for, is trade reform in our dealings with other countries to help General Motors?
We want an equal playing field. I am confident that if we can have equal playing field in the different countries that we are doing business in, that our vehicles will do well. And so we do want it to be fair, both ways. And that's something that, I think he's addressed, and we're looking forward to seeing those changes, because on an equal footing basis, I am confident that whether it's a Chevrolet or a Cadillac, a Buick, a GMC across the globe will succeed.
Finally, Mary, it was interesting. He really hit hard, the president did, restoring America as a leader in automobile manufacture around the world. If it really were the capital, as he called it, of automobile production in the world, would that help General Motors? Is that important to General Motors? Or is General Motors at this point such a global company that it really doesn't matter that much?
Well, it absolutely matters. We are a global company, and we're strong across many regions of the globe. But this is our home, and this is where it started. We, have leading market share in this country. We want to continue to strengthen it. And frankly, our headquarters is in Detroit. Is still the Motor City, and we want to see that rebirth that he's talking about.